Hiring is challenging, but there's one place you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. A place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place is ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective, in fact, that 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. With results like this, it's no wonder why ZipRecruiter is the highest rated hiring site in America. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. It's with a PH, not a V. ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM FM dial, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast live over the national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. I want to sit up there and put this proclamation out there right now. And I don't want people to take this wrong. But on this particular day, at this particular moment, in this particular environment, I don't give a damn about Colin Kaepernick's issues. That's right, I said it. Come to me Saturday. Come to me Monday. Come to me next week. Come to me next month. I'm with you. Damn it, come to me in a couple of hours, but not today. As we get set to start the 2018 National Football League season, a season that I have been clamoring for, that I have been starving for to get started, I'm telling you right now, I don't care. I don't care. And let me tell my man Rodney and other people, you got to get out of my head. Thank you very much. Here's the deal. I don't care about that stuff right now. Not literally speaking. Of course I care about the issues. Of course I care about our community. Of course I care about all those things. But for the next few hours, that is not what's on my mind. Because when Nike had this thing going on and they decided to use the 30th commemoration of their Just Do It campaign, with Colin Kaepernick as the face of the commemoration, and now you've got this commercial out with him, basically serving as an inspiration to the desolate, the disabled, the disenfranchised, and beyond. With everybody from Shaquem Griffin, the NFL player that is now with the Seattle Seahawks, that was desperate to get invited to the combine, didn't happen. Wanted to be drafted, which did happen. And now he's going to end up starting for the Seattle Seahawks. Okay? The commercial is incredibly touching. It's incredibly inspirational. I'm happy about it. I love it. It's a beautiful thing. We're hearing that Nike is going to air it tonight, and supposedly that's going to alienate some of the football populace that exist out there. I'm telling everybody, get the hell over it. Get the hell over it. We got some football to get into here. The reigning, defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles are hosting the Atlanta Falcons tonight at Lincoln Financial Field. That's on my mind. That's on my mind. And damn it, every team in every city in the National Football League, you got stuff that should be on your mind. You got stuff that you should be concerned about as it pertains to your football team. Don't use this stuff as an excuse to get distracted. You can walk and chew gum at the same time, to borrow that old adage. You don't have to sit up there and ignore the Colin Kaepernick issue to love your football. Nor do you have to embrace it to love your football. There is no excuse to alienate yourself from the National Football League at this moment in time. I'm here to support it. This is what I want to talk about here. The commercials are given. Nike's a given. And the fact that they now have ingratiated themselves into the whole Colin Kaepernick debate. So you got Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, stealing the narrative, hijacking the issue. And now you got Nike, which I think could work as an advantage to the NFL and its players, because since Nike is in the middle of it, now if you're the president of the United States, you're attacking Nike if you try to attack these players. So the Nike organization essentially, and the Nike brand essentially, has placed itself in a position of buffer to absorb some of the shrapnel of shots that'll come in their direction of the players. I think it's a good thing. I really, really do. And having said all of that, let me give everybody a reason why, you know what? You got other stuff to be concerned about right now. If you are the city of Philadelphia, what are your Eagles going to do? When's Carson Wentz come back? Can Nick Foles hold it down for the time being? Oh, by the way, you got Jay Ajayi and Corey Clement. You got Alshon Jeffrey, who's going to be out for a few games, but ultimately he'll be back. Nelson Aguilar will be there. Mike Wallace will be there. Your offensive line is intact. Zach Ertz is returning. Your defense and the kind of things that you did, and you acquired Michael Bennett in the offseason, you might be better now than you were last year. Philadelphia got that to think about. You're the Atlanta Falcons, excuse me. When you going to win a Super Bowl? We hear about Matt Ryan all the time, being some elite quarterback getting $30 million a year. Last time I saw Matt Ryan in a position that really, really counted, he blew a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl to Tom Brady. Now, granted, the defense ultimately gave up those points to the New England Patriots, but last time I checked in the sport of football, when you score, you don't get the ball back. Your defense has to go out there and get the football for you by getting stops or getting a turnover. And in order for that to happen, you get what? Guess what? It could have been nullified if Matt Ryan had done his job. He didn't. And now, after last year's reprieve, where Steve Sarkisian comes on as your offensive coordinator, and you and him ain't vibing necessarily, and he ain't taking chances, and he's being relatively pedestrian, and the running game ain't the same, and the passing game ain't the same, and Julio Jones can't get passes in the red zone, or can't get into the end zone, for crying out loud. You expect this year to be better with Steve Sarkisian as your offensive coordinator. He better be. And on the defensive side of the ball, we know that Atlanta predicates itself on defense, and we know Vic Beasley is a stud, but the reality is that they're relatively undersized. So they can hit, they can tackle, but they're relatively undersized, and if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you ground and pound and beat them down and call it a day. So if you're in Atlanta, that's your concern. That's what you got to be worried about as we speak. And let's go down the list. If you're in Buffalo, my condolences to you. Your quarterback stinks. Peterman ain't the answer. Okay? And Josh Allen ain't ready. And LaShawn McCoy, who I love, is lucky to be playing instead of being on the commissioner's exempt list after that stuff that happened with his ex. So you got that going on. In Baltimore, what are we going to see from John Harbaugh and Joe Flacco and the Ravens, who've been out of the playoffs the last 3 years? What are we going to see from them? And when are we going to see Lamar Jackson? That's another concern. Or RG3 for that matter, who, by the way, may have gotten a raw deal because everybody's been so caught up with talking about Colin Kaepernick. RG3, it could be a serviceable backup for somebody. Nobody even looked at him last year. He came on my television show, First Take, airs every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. He came on First Take last year, said, what about me? Y'all forgot about me. Everybody talking about Colin Kaepernick. Shoot, I think I'm better than Colin Kaepernick. I can do some things too. And sure enough, he's a backup quarterback in the National Football League right now, who, by the way, played better than Lamar Jackson did in the preseason. Let's not forget that. We got another game. This is on Fox. Visitors to the AFC Championship game last night. Jacksonville Jaguars last season. One of the elite defenses in the National Football League. Clearly the best secondary in the National Football League, from Gibson and Church to Ramsey and Boye. The bottom line is the Jacksonville Jaguars ain't no joke. Guess what? They're coming into East Rutherford, New Jersey. MetLife Stadium. Sunday, 1 o'clock. Odell Beckham Jr. What you gonna do? Odell Beckham Jr. is a bad brother. But have you seen that mouth on Jalen Ramsey? When you combine that with his game, what do you think's going to happen? I know they cool and all. You think Jalen Ramsey's going to be quiet? You think he's not going to try to get in his head? You think he's not going to try to mess with Odell Beckham Jr.'s head? Last time he went against a cornerback of this magnitude was with Josh Norman. And we remember how that ended up. Talk about 3 personal fouls being distributed. Odell Beckham Jr. got suspended for a game because he was penalized so often and lost his damn mind. Has he matured? Sure. Is he the same? Probably not. But we don't know how Jacksonville's going to get to him. Not to mention they're going to be all up in him. This is tackle football. So you New York, you Jacksonville, you got something to worry about other than Nike and Colin Kaepernick. You Tampa, hell. They're going up against the Saints in New Orleans on Sunday. Jameis Winston won't be quarterbacking for them because of his juvenile tendencies. He's suspended for 3 games. Grabbing Uber drivers, female Uber drivers, and all of this other stuff. Got me thinking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, for crying out loud. Y'all remember that time when Arnold Schwarzenegger got accused of groping 19 women or something? He sat up there and said, no, not true at all. 4, 5, 6, sure, maybe, but 19, it was not that many. That's what he said. 4, 5, 6, maybe, but 19, it was not that many. That's what you got. That's what you get to thinking about when you think about Jameis Winston. Because for some reason, he can't keep himself under control. But you going up against a team that some have picked, including myself, to win it all. Because Drew Brees is a bad somebody. And Kamara is nice too. And Thomas is a bad brother as well. And this defense, they finally got one. And even though Mark Ingram is out for the first few games due to his suspension, he'll eventually be back. So when you look at New Orleans, all the requisite weapons are there. Once again, you don't forget about Kaepernick. You don't forget about Nike. You don't forget about the protests. You don't forget about the residual impact of all of that. You don't forget the reason and the narrative behind all of it. What I'm saying is it shouldn't stop you from watching your football. There's a lot of stuff to get into here. Absolutely a lot of stuff. You can walk and chew gum at the same damn time. We got Houston. Lord knows they've been through a lot, but guess what? J.J. Watt, the ultimate philanthropist and humanitarian, as far as I'm concerned, with the city of Houston, they're going up against the New England Patriots, the reigning AFC champions. You got the Houston Texans. Yes, you're getting Deshaun Watson back. You're getting J.J. Watt back. Jadeveon Clowney expected to be there as well. What you going to do? Bill O'Brien, you ain't long sharing things with Rick Smith, the GM. You got a new GM in place. You got a new contract extension. You had a bevy of injuries last year. About 13 guys sent to the injured reserve. But what is Houston going to do? Particularly being in the same division as Jacksonville and Tennessee and Indianapolis with the return of Andrew Luck. They got a lot of stuff to be concerned about. You got to worry about Kaepernick. He ain't going nowhere. That issue ain't going anywhere. Okay, we going down the list here. I'm giving every damn city a reason to understand why you don't have to be concerned about Kaepernick. Trust me, that issue ain't going nowhere. You New England, it's New England. And you got to figure out a way to get things done. Plain and simple. And you know what I'm excited about? I can't wait to see Jimmy Garoppolo. Everybody walk around Jimmy G like he deserves some damn nickname. I know he's 7-0 as a starter. I know he's 5-0 in San Francisco. He's 2-0 in New England. But damn it, guess what? They put so much film out on him. It will be now. And against this defense, let's see what he does. I'm hearing a lot about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's the guy that Bill Belichick wanted to hold on to. He's the guy that Bill Belichick wanted to, spearhead Tom Brady's exit from New England. They talk like if Bill Belichick had his druthers, Tom Brady would be gone. And Jimmy Garoppolo would still be there. I want to see what he does against this Minnesota Vikings defense, which is elite. Let's be very, very clear about this. It's elite. But here's the interesting part about Minnesota too. Kirk Cousins. Do y'all realize that Kirk Cousins got paid guaranteed dollars in excess of $48 million over the previous 2 years? And that was before signing this 3-year, $84 million deal with the Minnesota Vikings where every penny was guaranteed. Y'all realize that? Y'all realize the same Kirk Cousins that over the last year nearly pocketed $2 million, that will pocket another $28 million this year. So all told, he will have made at the end of this season about $76 to $77 million. Do y'all realize that Kirk Cousins has never won a playoff game? That he's only appeared in one game? That he's never won? Do y'all understand that Kirk Cousins is under immense pressure? Because guess what? What excuse do the Minnesota Vikings have for not winning this year? That's another subject to get into. How about Tennessee and Miami? Yes, Tennessee made the playoffs last year. Yes, Marcus Mariota continues to develop. How about Ryan Tannehill and the Dolphins? When are you going to be relevant? When are you going to matter? Just a question. Just a question. Of course, I'm not going to watch because I'm not interested in seeing the Bengals play because I don't think Marvin Lewis deserves to be their head coach. This man has been coach for 15 years in Cincinnati, hasn't won a single playoff game. I am not saying that Marvin Lewis doesn't deserve to be a head coach. What I am saying is he does not deserve to be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. Every day that Marvin Lewis has the head coaching job in Cincinnati, it's tantamount to the Bengals organization giving the citizens of Cincinnati the proverbial middle finger. That's what it comes down to. They're telling you they don't give a damn about winning. They don't give a damn about prioritizing winning. They don't give a damn about you spending your hard-earned money on their product and getting virtually nothing in return. That's what they're telling you. Who, in whatever profession you want to choose, who the hell gets a license to come up short 15 straight years without any repercussions? Who does that? Who does that? Who does that? Nobody does that. But Cincinnati. It is an abomination that the Cincinnati Bengals have not made a head coaching change. I'm not saying Marvin Lewis doesn't deserve a head coaching job. I know he's taken them to the playoffs 7 times. I know that the man knows football. I'm talking about in the city of Cincinnati. You know what? Enough's enough. And they go against Andrew Luck and his return. And we'll see what happens with that. Of course, in Pittsburgh, the Steelers are going against the Browns. And we know what the story is in Pittsburgh, Le'Veon Bell. And let me step away from Nike and Kaepernick and the National Football League and these game predictions or whatever the case may be, some of the things that you could be looking out for. Let me step away from all of that to say this. Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line should be ashamed of itself. That's Marquise Pouncey. That's Ramon Foster. I'm not going to disrespect them. I'm not going to character assassinate them. I'm quite sure they're good guys. I've spoken to them on several occasions when I was in, or at least a couple of occasions rather, when I've been inside of Steelers locker room. I have mad respect for their brothers. I'm not trying to castigate them or character assassinate them. I'm only speaking as strictly as it pertains to the comments about Le'Veon Bell. That was a straight sucker move. Straight punk move. You do not talk about another player like that trying to get his money and making a business decision that's in the best interest of his career and that of his family. You don't do it. And that's what the Steelers did by talking about Le'Veon Bell in the fashion that they talked about him. They should be ashamed of themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it plain as day. It was flat out betrayal. They betrayed that man. It doesn't matter whether you talk to him or not. Or you don't do that. You don't go on camera and talk about this guy in a fashion where you could potentially compromise his money. He does not deserve that. Le'Veon Bell had 321 carries last year. 321 carries. He had 85 receptions. That's 406 touches, which, by the way, was a season high. We're talking about a league that doesn't even look at you as an individual. All they look at is the number 30. If you're a running back and you're 30 years of age, they basically deduce that you're finished. So Le'Veon Bell's about to turn 27, and he didn't want to put himself in a position to do that. He watched Todd Gurley get a contract extension. He's saying, what about me? There's no way around this. They have betrayed Le'Veon Bell. I'm not talking about Mike Tomlin. I'm not talking about Keith Colbert. I'm not talking about Steelers brass. It's understandable coming from them, but for a player to open their mouth the way that Foster did is unforgivable. It's unconscionable. They betrayed Le'Veon Bell. Let's just call it what it is. They have betrayed that man. And they should be ashamed of themselves. He didn't deserve that. I don't care if he spoke to them and told them he was coming in Wednesday and didn't come in. Stuff happens. You don't do that to him. But that's what they did. And it might be indicative of why the Steelers don't really have a Super Bowl championship in modern era, because they ain't together. They play the Browns, they'll win that game. Tyrod Taylor won't turn the ball over. That's what he does. He protects the football. But he's not a game, what are we talking about here? He's not a game changer, and Baker Mayfield ain't ready. So the Browns will lose this game. I'd be shocked if the Steelers lost even without Le'Veon Bell, but we shall see. Arguably the game of the day. Yet another reason why you shouldn't be too worried about Colin Kaepernick and his issues. Chiefs at the Chargers. I got news for y'all. I can't wait for this. I've heard so much junk about Patrick Mahomes and what a star-studded quarterback he is. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. All you hear about is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you got cats talking about him like he's the second coming to Dan Marino. I got to see it to believe it. And against those pass rushers in San Diego, combined with Phillip Rivers being somebody that's going to answer the call, it can get very interesting. Not to mention Kansas City's defense stinks. That's just the way I see it. Seahawks, Broncos, another big-time game. Listen, this game, Shaquem Griffin, it's a wonderful, wonderful story. It's a sensational story. And he likes to, fly all over the field and make things happen. And Pete Carroll insisted, and Seattle's going to give him the opportunity to do just that. I'm happy for this brother. They should not beat Denver. They shouldn't beat Denver. With Bradley Chubb and Von Miller coming after the quarterback, Russell Wilson, even though he ain't the easiest quarterback to pin down and tackle, it looks like it's going to be a long afternoon for Seattle. Something else to look forward to. Dallas Cowboys at Carolina Panthers. Other than ignorance on the part of my colleague, Will Kane, ain't nobody picking Dallas to get no Super Bowl. And then you got Cam Newton and Carolina. Up and down. Nobody's talking about Carolina right now. If I'm Cam Newton, I would be alarmed by that. You got the Redskins going up against the Cardinals. I'm wondering how Jay Gruden's going to continue to keep his job. Bears and Khalil Mack. Hopefully he'll play against the Packers. And, of course, the Jets at Detroit against new coach Matt Patricia. Sam Darnold will be in the quarterback. And, of course, the L.A. Rams going up against the Oakland Raiders. Lots of interesting stuff to get into. See that? Football, football, football. Everywhere, in every city. Doesn't mean you forget about Colin Kaepernick. Doesn't mean you forget about Nike. But it does mean under no circumstances should you allow that to prevent you from getting into these games. This is what it's all about, baby. And whether you like Kaepernick's position or not, even when he was in the NFL, once the national anthem was over, it was time to play football. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. And we are ready. 888, say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Back with your calls and more in a minute before Tedy Bruschi comes on to start hour number 2. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Ow. Yep, you guessed it. I'm a speed bump, so I've got one job. I slow you down. So imagine how I feel about Geico, who does way more. Like, not only could they save you money on car insurance, but they've been around for over 75 years, giving people fast and friendly claim service. Ow. Plus, they got a nifty mobile app that gives you 24/7 access. Ow. Just doing my job, buddy.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Ha-ha! Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Get your quote at Progressive.com today. To the phones we go at 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Remember, hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio and simulcast live on ESPN News Television. The great Tedy Bruschi, 3-time champion with the New England Patriots, now resident analyst extraordinaire on the NFL for ESPN. He'll be on with us to begin hour number 2 of this program. But until that time, let's get to the phones. Lots of stuff to get into. Let's go to Jay. You're live at Stephen A. Talk to me. Jay.
Yes.
You're live on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, this is first time caller, man. I wanted to call about the Steelers with the Le'Veon Bell situation and throwing him under the bus.
Go ahead.
You know, this has been going on with the Steelers ever since the situation with Ben Roethlisberger. That y'all never y'all talk about the situation with Ray Rice that they did wrong. Y'all talk about the situation with Greg Hardy that they did wrong. Hello?
Yes, I'm listening. Go ahead.
But you never, when you was talking to Jalen this morning, you was talking about the thing with that happened with Antonio and the thing Martavis Bryant.
I said nothing about Antonio, but I said Martavis Bryant. But go ahead.
Well, you know where I'm going with it. But you know when all that stuff happened with Ben Roethlisberger and he raped those 2 girls in 2009 and 2010, none of them did nothing to him like that. They stood behind him. All of the players stood behind him. I know because I watched it.
Wait a minute. Here's a couple of things that you're missing. Number one, we're talking about a contract situation. Ben Roethlisberger, there was no contract situation. Number 2, he was accused. He was never arrested. He was never indicted. And so as a result of that, even though you might have a point, and you have to understand that you have a point as a private citizen just expressing yourself over the airwaves as you call into this show. But we have an obligation to point out the fact that those things didn't materialize into something of a legal matter. The only thing that it got dicey with is that the commissioner originally suspended him for 6 games, and ultimately that suspension was reduced to 4 games because he engaged in conduct detrimental to the team. But there was nothing from a legal perspective that he had to have repercussions applied to him for outside of the commissioner finding him to be in a precarious situation. And that was the difference.
Okay, I understand you, but the thing is, the team never questioned whatever was going on with the situation.
Yeah, but here's the reason.
100%.
Yeah, but what you're missing is the fact that Ben Roethlisberger was ready to play. The commissioner prohibited him from playing because of a suspension. It wasn't like Ben Roethlisberger had made the choice to stay away from the team. You see what I'm saying? I do get your point because I brought up Martavis Bryant. You get yourself in trouble. You get yourself suspended. As a result, but I was making a point. Nobody said anything about Martavis Bryant. Nobody said anything about Big Ben. Nobody said anything about anybody. But when it comes to Le'Veon Bell trying to get his money, all of a sudden everybody wants to open their mouth. So you're bringing up the white player that wasn't called on the carpet, but there were other players that were called out when in fact nobody, white or black, were called out the way Le'Veon Bell was called out by the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. And that's my issue with it. But I got to run. I appreciate your call and I thank you for it. Let's go to LJ. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, LJ. How are you, man? Long time no speak.
I'm good, Stephen A. Man, I want to talk to you about the Texans.
Okay.
Now,
Go ahead.
Stephen A., do you understand this is the first time in a franchise history that we have a quarterback that can put up points on our offensive side of the ball.
Sure.
So the anticipation this year is extremely exciting. So I went back through the Patriots' schedule since 2010.
Okay.
They have lost at least one game in the first 4 games of the season.
Okay.
Except for 2015.
Okay.
Now, would I be far-fetched to pick the Texans to upset the Patriots on Sunday?
No, you wouldn't be far-fetched. I don't think it's going to happen because I think that people are looking at Brandon Cooks being gone and they're assuming that New England's going to get the better. I'm sorry, that somebody could get the better of New England. And guess what? Because Danny Amendola is in Miami, and of course Malcolm Butler along with Deion Lewis is in Tennessee. So New England's looking vulnerable. Sony Michel out of Georgia can ball. I like him, and I think that it's not an accident that New England picked him up. You still got Hogan, okay? You can't ignore that you got Hogan. You've got Philip Dorsett. These are guys that could do some things on the outside. You still got Gronkowski. Edelman's not going to be there. I think that the greatest argument that you can make on behalf of the Texans is that Edelman's not going to be there due to his suspension for the first few games. But I still got some questions about Houston. I'm looking at Houston right now. I believe in DeAndre Hopkins. He's a stud. Deshaun Watson is what he is. Lamar Miller is no scrub. But the flip side to it, what do you really have to depend on as an offense other than what I just mentioned? I think it could be problematic for Houston personally.
Well, can we depend on our defensive front?
I don't know. Hold it. You don't know either. Don't act like you ain't nervous. I mean, J.J. Watt's coming back from back surgery. You don't know what he's got for you.
But we healthy though, Stephen A.
I hear you, but let me ask you a question. I mean, we talk about a bad back here. You sure? You sure?
Yeah, I'm confident. You sure? Because last year
you're emotional.
You ain't confident.
You're emotional. You're emotional. You ain't confident. You're emotional. Come on now.
Confident. We go into Foxborough and beat them, Stephen A.
Okay.
I'm calling it out.
Okay.
I'm going to call you back Monday and tell you that I was right.
Okay, that's no problem. And I'll be having an APB out for you if you were wrong. I ain't going to be able to find you. But I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. We'll see. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Continue to listen live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. I'm right here. I ain't going anywhere. Hyped about the opening of the NFL season tonight, live from Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field, to be exact. The reigning defending Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, host the Atlanta Falcons. I expect Philadelphia to handle their business, by the way. I'm just saying. I think it's important to note that. More of your calls in a minute with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
It's a normal day. You're rushing out the door to get to work on time when suddenly, there it is, the dreaded service light. So what is it this time? Tire pressure? Low coolant? Time for an oil change? When it comes to service lights, head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. Drive in today and make the switch to Pennzoil. Ask for Pennzoil Synthetics, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Back to the phones we go at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Remember, hour number 2, top of hour number 2. We'll have the great Tedy Bruschi, NFL analyst extraordinaire, on with us to talk about these games coming up. Not just tonight, but a lot of games coming up this weekend. First weekend, opening weekend of the 2018 NFL season. Let's get back to it. Let's go to my man Carlton. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, buddy.
Hey, how you doing, Stephen A?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Good. Listen, I got comments on Le'Veon Bell, Colin Kaepernick, and the biggest surprise, and I'll be quick.
Go ahead.
The reason why Le'Veon Bell's teammates are reacting the way they are to Le'Veon Bell is because Le'Veon Bell has screwed up the Pittsburgh Steelers start of the season 4 seasons in a row now, Stephen A. He got suspended in 2015. He got suspended in 2016. He was holding out last year, and he's holding out again this year. And they recognize that the more money Le'Veon Bell gets in a hard cap league, the less money they get. And he is not about team as far as they're concerned, and they're done with it. And so I'll be shocked if the Steelers do not move on from Le'Veon Bell.
Okay, just so you know, I still think there's no excuse for them publicizing their feelings in that fashion, considering the business that they're in. But go ahead to the other point.
4 seasons in a row, though.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't. Carlton, you're not hearing me. You and I can say what they said. They have no business saying that. That's my point. But go ahead.
Right. Colin Kaepernick. I don't know why you're now more bringing race into this situation, Stephen A. First off, Colin Kaepernick is getting paid by Nike. So the idea that he's not getting paid is wrong. Nobody that's 3-16 in his last 2 seasons is going to get significantly paid by any NFL team. And you seem to forget that it was Colin Kaepernick that threw Ray Lewis, Hall of Famer Ray Lewis, under the bus, comparing him to an Uncle Tom, and yet you're somehow thinking that this is a white against black thing?
No, not at all. I don't know where you're getting that from. What I'm saying is this. You had the president that hijacked the narrative by turning it into an issue of patriotism. You have Nike, who basically have ingratiated themselves into the equation because they see a business opportunity for themselves. I didn't bring up race. I was making the point that between the president and his constituency, along with Nike and its bottom line objectives, you'll be talking about those things, not you specifically, but we'll be talking about those two entities, meaning Trump and his constituency and Nike, more so than we'll be talking about the issues that Colin Kaepernick tried to address. That was the only point I made.
All right. Well, it's been Kaepernick that, insulted Cuban Americans.
And I agree with that.
And compared Ray Lewis to an Uncle Tom.
Well, no, hold on, Carlton. Not only have I mentioned it, I've allowed you on the show on several occasions to bring that up. So,
and that is to your credit, Stephen A., because the social justice warriors usually try to silence anybody who has a disagreement.
Not at all.
Finally, my big surprises of the year, Stephen A.
Okay.
And it's because of 2 quarterbacks that are wildly underestimated. The Cleveland Browns are going to win more games than anybody believes because Tyrod Taylor is a vastly better quarterback. And the team that has literally the hardest 3 games to start a season in the Super Bowl era, 53 seasons, and will shock you, is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
What?
With Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, God, there you go again. I cannot believe I missed it. I can't believe I missed it. I'm talking to Ryan. This is the one person, Carlton, formerly of Massachusetts, now retired in Tampa. God bless him. He's a friend of the show. I love him dearly. This guy believes Ryan Fitzpatrick is the second coming of Tom Brady. Yeah.
They have the best receiving core in the NFL with Evans, Deshaun Jackson, Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard. They are going to light it up, Stephen A.
Okay, we'll see. I can't wait to find you. Listen, Tampa Bay, if their defense gives them something, I give you credit there, because let me tell you something right now. The way Jameis Winston has looked from time to time, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Ryan Fitzpatrick ended up doing a better job than him. We shall see. But Lord knows you have no objectivity when it comes to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Carlton loves himself some Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I'll talk to you another day, Carlton. Can't wait to talk to you once this season begins. Make no mistake about it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show live on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM, ESPN Radio Channel 80, plus simulcast live on ESPN News Television. Hour number 2 up next with Tedy Bruschi. Don't touch that dial. More Stephen A. coming at you.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hiring is challenging, but there's one place you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. A place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place is ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective, in fact, that 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. With results like this, it's no wonder why ZipRecruiter is the highest rated hiring site in America. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. It's with a PH, not a V. ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hey, welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Always my honor and privilege to have my next guest. Haven't spoken to him in a couple of months. Obviously, he's a champion with the New England Patriots, an outstanding NFL analyst extraordinaire for the family. The one and only Tedy Bruschi is right here with yours truly. What's going on, Teddy? How are you, man?
Hey, Stephen A. Football is back. I'm excited. Big game tonight. NFL weekend. Just excited to get back to work and talking some ball.
Man, help me out here for a second. From what I hear about you, you never leave football. I mean, you coach in high school and stuff like that. What's been going on in the life of Tedy Bruschi? I want to know.
Yeah, football is year round for me. I mean, if I'm not watching these NFL games, I'm helping coach over. My son plays football, so I coach with the team when I can out there. And we just got through a couple weeks, 2.5 weeks of camp. Their openers this Friday, so I got NFL opener tonight, high school Friday night opener. Saturday college football, then Sunday the NFL weekend. It never stops, and I love it.
Personalizing it just a little bit, Teddy, before we get into the NFL, you got a lot of parents out there in this day and age that, have expressed concerns about the state of the game, football, the violence, the concussions and things of that nature. And they don't want their kids playing football. Where do you fall in all of that? What's your mentality considering the age of concussions and all of that other stuff? And how does that affect you as a parent as you think about football?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially, I have 3 sons. My oldest son decided not to play football, and I was absolutely fine with that. My younger 2 want to play football, and I've told them you have to wait till you're 14. Wait till you're 14. A freshman in high school is when they start. They know that. I make sure they can throw. I make sure they can catch. I put them in flag football, do all of those things because I want them to develop athletically and develop physically a little bit more before they start putting the helmet on and the shoulder pads on. So I'm comfortable with that. I love football. It's a great sport. I am actually in favor of what the NFL is trying to do with the new helmet rule and how they're trying to figure it out because they're trying to make it safer and they have to be the leaders because as it trickles down to college and high school and the Pop Warner levels, they have to see the NFL take that lead in the proper way to use a helmet. And there is no way to use a helmet. What the way to do it is you put it on and it protects you, and that's what it's for. That's a shift in philosophy in terms of what they used to show. The players used to use those helmets as weapons. I know that. That's the way it used to be. Coaches used to even coach it that way at times. So safety, waiting till my kids play 14, I am totally okay with that playing football in high school. Some parents believe in starting them a little bit younger, and I'm okay with that too, as long as you're coached well, because this is a fantastic sport where children of all ages can especially learn a lot of life lessons, and I have so much that I owe to the game of football.
Tedy Bruschi, is there a particular team in the National Football League in this day and age who you believe does it the right way in terms of teaching tackling techniques and engaging themselves in a way or engaging their players, their roster in a way that shows you the right way to do things in terms of tackling, but in the same breath protecting yourself and being formidable as a tackling unit? Is there a particular team that you admire in terms of how they've gone about really evolving in this day and age?
I believe that all NFL teams do their best to coach it properly in terms of head up, not using the crown of the helmet as a blunt force weapon to deliver punishment. But I think the ones that have been pioneers in changing tackling and doing that is the Seattle Seahawks and the way that it's been named the Hawk tackle, where we've always been taught head across the body, even across the legs, and throw it across with your head and the helmet and then wrap and then bring them down. But they actually go near shoulder, near foot, a different technique in terms of squeezing and then wrapping and then rolling them down to the ground. It's a different type of process in tackling, and I think they were the leaders in it in terms of taking the head out of the tackling equation, and then a lot of other NFL teams are following their lead to where When I first started coaching high school a couple years ago, they were teaching the hawk tackle, near shoulder, near leg, taking the head out of the equation, not putting the head across the body. And at times, you just absolutely have to have the head across the body. It just happens. It's physics. That's just the way it is out there, especially in the box with the front seven. But the Seahawks have been a leader in that. And if you watch players like Earl Thomas and some of the other players, they do even implement that into the game. Bobby Wagner, that's why they are such great tacklers, because the Seahawks do such a good job of teaching it.
Tedy Bruschi right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Let's get to the action on the field. I know we're both chomping at the bit to get into that. The Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, are hosting the Atlanta Falcons at Lincoln Financial Field tonight in Philadelphia. Do you expect a Super Bowl hangover, or do you expect the Philadelphia Eagles to be the Rough Riders that they are against a very fast but undersized Atlanta Falcons squad, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, and you expect Philadelphia to have their way tonight? What are your expectations?
I expect the Philadelphia Eagles to have a little bit of emotional conflict tonight. And I say that because they have spent, I mean, it's been the victory tour for them in terms of parade, the ring ceremonies, everybody buying their dinners across the state of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, all of that. They're getting their backs patted on the backs and all of that. And then you try to move on. Once you report to training camp, you hear it from your coaches, you hear it from them in the media, trying to move on as best they can. But then you get to the game and you recognize that the circus is in town. Everybody's there celebrating what you did last year. They will drop a banner. You will have possibly a patch on your jersey that says what you did last year, and you remember it. It's so hard not to remember, and hard not to reflect, and hard not to feel so accomplished when you see that banner go down, when that banner get raised. But then, you look across the field and there's that opponent in the Atlanta Falcons. So they're going to have to reflect and then move forward in a matter of seconds at a highly emotional level, because this is going to be a very difficult game for them. But I think it's something they can handle, because the way Doug Peterson coaches that team and keeps them level-headed, the way Jim Schwartz is that aggressive defensive coordinator, I think.
Yeah, you think that, but what about Atlanta? In other words, what I'm saying is, do you think that's the reason, or is it because Atlanta is an inferior team this year?
Well, getting into Steve Sarkisian's second year as an offensive coordinator, I still look at that offense and say that they should be better. Mm-hmm. They should be more explosive. I mean, now they even add Calvin Ridley. They should be able to explode on these Philadelphia Eagles. But I just don't know how Matt Ryan can just turn the switch like that. Second year, it should be better. You're more comfortable with the system. Well, show me. But until they show me that, I just know there's a very aggressive, well-coached defense on the other side that I think is going to have success against them tonight.
Tedy Bruschi right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. When we look at the NFC conference, it looks like a monster conference. I mean, there's so many teams that can compete for a Super Bowl championship. Everybody can't make it. There's only 6 teams from each conference that can make the playoffs. So you've got a tight situation right now. When you scour the NFC, who in your mind should be the favorites? I know we're looking at Philadelphia, but look at what the Rams did in the offseason. Look at what Minnesota did in the offseason. Look at New Orleans and how, that fluke play to Stephon Diggs for a touchdown last year cost them a trip to the NFC Championship game. What are your thoughts about the NFC?
Yeah, that's my team that you mentioned them right there, and that's the New Orleans Saints. And they're my team to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I just like the way that they are defensively, how they've done well in the draft the last couple of years, and those teams are now maturing and becoming leaders on that team. I know Ingram suspended for the first 4 games. Kamara will have to carry the load, but Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, that type of explosive offense, coming up with those young players on defense, this is a team that I know you mentioned them and they're right there in everyone's thoughts, but we're with the Atlantas and the Minnesotas and all of the other teams. They're a team that I think are the ones that you should look out for.
You say New Orleans, but what about Atlanta? Let's get back to them for a second. I mean, am I wrong? Is it beyond the pale of comprehension that I should be able to expect more from Matt Ryan? I know the brother can play. I know he's passed. Mm-hmm. I know he's good for 4,000 yards. I get all of that. But considering the $30 million contract, the fact that he consistently gets paid, I think that the time has come when we talk about Drew Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers. Listen, when I think about Matt Ryan, I don't question his skill set. I just think that there have been too many big moments where he hasn't capitalized off of them. That's my issue with Matt Ryan. What about you?
There you go, and that's why I said this week that that fourth quarter for Matt Ryan is what I gotta see from him. I mean, him be that guy, that dude that just takes his team down the field. And you mentioned all those other quarterbacks, the Bradys, the Rodgers, the Brees, those type of quarterbacks. They're the ones I would rather have in the fourth quarter with the last drive when you need one score, you need a field goal, or you need to get it in the end zone. I've just seen Atlanta. It's still fresh in my mind of even the play call of rolling out on 4th and 2 and trying to hit Julio Jones, and it just looking like that just wasn't a good play, and it wasn't run, and did it look like Matt Ryan didn't believe in it? I just think that there are mentalities that I have more faith in terms of fourth quarter quarterbacks last drive.
What does it say to you that when we talk about the upper echelon of the National Football Conference, the NFC, that we don't talk about Carolina and Cam Newton? What is that telling you?
Mm-hmm. It tells me that there are a lot of good teams, because I still see Carolina as a solid football team, but stacked up against all the improvements that have been made of the other teams that you mentioned, will they be competitive? Yes. I mean, it's just that it's those other teams that I just feel right now are better than they are.
Tedy Bruschi right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Green Bay, when I think about Green Bay, I think about Mike McCarthy. I'm not going to lie to you. I think about a guy that obviously knows something about coaching. He's been to the playoffs 8 straight years before they missed out last year when Aaron Rodgers went down on game 4 of the season. But still in all, I'm thinking about the fact that you got a talent like Aaron Rodgers. At some point in time, you've got to capitalize off of that. He's got a Super Bowl championship, but that was 8 years ago. I'm wondering about Mike McCarthy in Green Bay. What are your expectations for them, and what do you think is the thing that has held them back over the last several years?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has got the best skilled quarterback in the NFL in terms of his ability, but in terms of accomplishments, Brady, of course, trumps him, and so people keep looking at, you're the best quarterback, you got all the talent. When are you going to do things? So they go out and get a Jimmy Graham for you, in which Jimmy Graham just spent about 3 years in Seattle and with a scrambling quarterback in Russell Wilson, so he should fit in seamlessly, especially when Aaron Rodgers has a play that he makes his own. It breaks down, he's scrambling. Jimmy Graham knows what to do. You get him a 6-7 target like that, you're trying to give him as much as he can to be successful. But, in a division like that, that's going to be very difficult with a up-and-coming Lions team, a Chicago Bears team that I think would be the surprise team in the NFC, because I like what Matt Nagy's doing over there. Of course, they got Khalil Mack, but, the Vikings, it's going to be all about Aaron Rodgers, really, because that defense is going to play better if the offense scores points. If they score points and get those leads, then that defense can really play a little bit more free. That's going to help a defense that's already suffered some injury.
Tedy Bruschi, you brought it up. Did you feel good about what Chicago did to acquire Khalil Mack, or do you think they gave up too much?
I don't think they gave up too much. Khalil Mack still has 3 to 4 years at least in his prime, and one of the best defenders in football. If that's what you got to do to make a splash and give your team a shot in the arm, that linebacking core, I am so fired up about now. If Leonard Floyd can step it up and stay healthy and get double-digit sacks, I've always loved Danny Trevathan as a player, and then Roquan Smith, if he can catch up from his long holdout, that linebacking core, that 3-4 defense of Vic Fangio, that could be special.
What about Aaron Donald getting his money from Los Angeles? I thought it was long overdue, but he finally got his payday. How are you feeling about what you're seeing in Los Angeles with him and Ndamukong Suh, along with Peters and Aqib Talib in the secondary?
Now, they should be dominant, and it's ironic. It's ironic on Monday night when the Rams play the Raiders that let's say Aaron Donald makes a play and makes a sack, strip sack, fumble, huge play. There's a guy that organization ended up paying and saying, okay, you go do it for us. And then the Raiders seeing that. The Raiders players saying, wow, that's what happens when you keep your players because they're missing Khalil Mack. that would be sort of a conflict that they experience emotionally because they don't have Khalil Mack. But that defense, as long as Wade Phillips can keep them right emotionally, because when you bring a lot of different pieces in and getting them to play together, that one key was so big for me in signing Aaron Donald, because there's your constant and there's your anchor that can lead them and bring all different volatile personalities together.
Tedy Bruschi, what are your thoughts about Le'Veon Bell and this whole charade that's been going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers? He's been franchised for a second consecutive year. He hasn't signed it yet. Now that he hasn't shown up, he's scheduled to miss game 1 of the season. You got players in the Steelers locker room going in front of cameras, speaking out against him. What are your thoughts about all of this nonsense going on?
I mean, if Le'Veon Bell had any feelings of, remorse of not reporting on time and letting his team down, he's got to feel maybe better about it now, because players are supposed to have each other's back in terms of contract negotiations and understand the business of the league.
Tedy, excuse me for interrupting you. I declassified it as straight up betrayal. The fact that they will go and speak out publicly, knowing the business of football, I found to be incredibly egregious. It's one thing to feel that way privately, but to go out and publicly decry this man, knowing we're talking about the National Football League, we're talking about the running back position, and we're talking about a short window of opportunity for him to get his money. I thought it was nothing but flat out betrayal. Your thoughts?
You crossed the line. They crossed the line. I agree with you 100%. If I'm Le'Veon Bell, I'm 26 years old right now. I turned 27 in February.
Yep.
How many years do you think I got before I turned 30? Because just Adrian Peterson recently turning 30. When he turned 30, it started to go downhill. Not many can go past that. You know how all of the organizations feel about your prime, your age. That number is important. He has got a smaller window now. He's been trying to do it for the last couple of years, and finally he's trying to play hardball because this is my last chance. And now you guys are putting this on me? Maybe I just come in and get my 6 games, get my accrued season, then I'm out of there. Yep. If that happens, and then the emotional feelings they have in the locker room about, well, now you come in, we know you just only coming to get these 6 games. Now do we even want you here? There's got to be some type of bridge that's built now between not only Le'Veon and the organization, but now those players. Them players they got to look at themselves and realize what they just did, and they stepped on a man's business, something you shouldn't be messing with, because he has made a decision, and you got to give him support as a team, because there have been players recently that have held a hard line that have been rewarded. Can't you see the money is there? And if you play the hard line, a victory can be possible for the players. Aaron Donald, Odell Beckham Jr., Khalil Mack, all those guys right there. He's trying to do the same thing for future running backs. I would understand that. Obviously, a lot of players in the Steelers locker room didn't.
Tedy Bruschi right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Before I let you get on out of here, let's go through a few of these games because I want to get your thoughts about them real quick. Right. Jaguars and Jalen Ramsey versus Odell Beckham Jr. and the New York Giants.
Don't watch the quarterbacks. Please, people, when you're watching this game on TV, don't watch the quarterbacks, and take your eyes up to the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen to see that matchup, to see Jalen Ramsey, to see Odell Beckham Jr., and see how masters they are at their craft, especially at the line of scrimmage, the hands, the separation speed, all the little tricks of the trade that they're going to use on each other. That's something that's must-see TV right there.
What do you think Saquon Barkley is going to do this year?
I think he's going to have a successful year. Can he get 1,000 yards rushing? That's a successful rookie year. I think it can be. I don't think they're going to try to ride him like he was Ezekiel Elliott. They've talked about that, but I'd say still, see what he can do. See what he can do. Let him have it. And you got something with Evan Ingram also at tight end for that offense of the New York Giants. Those are some weapons for Eli Manning if they can. That Will Hernandez, that guard, if that offensive line can hold up.
We've had lots of conversations about Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald. We ain't saying much about J.J. Watt coming back from that back surgery and what have you. Texans play the Patriots this weekend. Have we seen the best days of J.J. Watt?
Already a 3-time defensive player of the year coming back. If you listen to Billy O'Brien head coach of the Texans, the way he's gushing about J.J. Watt and how he looked this summer, it looks like maybe he can have a successful year. I'm hoping because, I mean, it's just when J.J. Watt is healthy, you won't see anything like it. And I know Tom Brady wants to play till he's 45, and he's a good friend of mine, but he may not make 42 if they don't block J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney on Sunday because judging by that Week 3 contest last year, they'll put both of those big pass rushers on the same side, and they will just overwhelm an entire side of an offensive line and collapse it going to the quarterback. So that's huge. Trent Brown, that left tackle they acquired from the San Francisco 49ers, he's got his work cut out for him.
Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers at Minnesota. Expectations, sir?
Man, everybody's so excited about San Francisco. It's a shame about the McKinnon injury, but I'm more excited to watch that Viking defense because I think it's the best in the league, and to see them go up against Jimmy Garoppolo and that 49er offense is going to be what I'm going to be paying attention to because I love to see Garoppolo and how he does in an opening game situation like this. Emotions are high. All they've been watching is him in that offense, and I think the Vikings are going to slow down the Garoppolo train greatly.
Possibly the game of the weekend, Chiefs versus the Chargers. Chiefs in that high-powered offense. Chargers are considered by some to be a favorite to get to the Super Bowl. Your thoughts real quick?
I like the Chargers in this game, but I also I can't wait to see Pat Mahomes. This him and Tyreek Hill and that Kansas City offense and Travis Kelce is going to be very exciting to watch. But the Los Angeles Charger defense is solid in itself with Bosa and Ingram. They've got a great defensive secondary also. But that's one of the things. The opening week, you got a quarterback that's now got an entire offseason. Pat Mahomes, a rifle for an arm, something that you hope that quarterback has success because the better quarterbacks there are in the NFL, the more successful that this league will be. And that offense has a lot of potential to score a lot of points.
Cowboys, Carolina Panthers. Cowboys versus Cam Newton on the road.
Yeah, Thomas Davis is not playing. You know, I always look at the linebackers, especially if Kuechly and Davis, two of the best in the business. And, you know, to see Luke Kuechly go up against Ezekiel Elliott is going to be something I'm very excited about. This running game, how they're talking about Ezekiel Elliott and how he just wants to carry the load, that's just something linebackers get excited for. To see the Kuechly Elliott matchup, another thing. Just watch that. Take your eyes away from the ball and the quarterback and watch 59 for the Carolina Panthers.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, buddy. Got to get on out of here. Thank you so much for joining me, Tedy Bruschi. Thank you so much, my man. Looking forward to the season.
Stephen A.
Take it easy. The one and only Tedy Bruschi right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Always appreciate the expertise of the Super Bowl champion from the New England Patriots that's now obviously an NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN, as he has been for the last several years, by the way. Always appreciate him. We're going to get back to your phone calls and so much more in a minute. Week 1 of the NFL season begins tonight. The Philadelphia Eagles reigning Super Bowl champions hosting the Atlanta Falcons.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Let's get back to the phones. Let's go to Bobby. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Bobby? How are you?
How's it going, Stephen A?
Talk to me, man.
Hey, I was just wanting to comment on the Le'Veon Bell situation.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how much of his, continued holdout has to do with how he saw the Khalil Mack situation go down. He said he wasn't going to play. He got his trade. He got his money. I don't know if that's, factoring into it. But, I mean, at this point, you're the Steelers. For a running back, you're not going to get, 2 firsts like Mack. You might not even get 1 first. Mm-hmm. But now that you've got his offensive line coming out and kind of like dogging him, even if he does come back, you kind of got that. Now you have an issue in the locker room.
Well, not just that. You know what else, Bobby, nobody's brought up? How do I know how interested you're going to be in blocking for me after you talked about me that way?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm trying to get paid, and the guys that I rely upon up front, 3 All-Pros, by the way, 3 All-Pro players, Villanueva, DeCastro, Pouncey. I mean, these guys are All-Pros from last season, and Forster's no joke either. I mean, if you're talking about me that way, you're my bodyguards. How can I depend on you when I'm trying to stay healthy? My priority is to stay healthy for 2019 free agency so I can get paid because I'm a running back, and it doesn't matter how I look or how I feel. The fact that I turned 30 years of age, even though that's 3.5 years away, is going to be reasons for you to nullify any thought of giving me my money. This is my opportunity, and the people that's supposed to block for me are talking about me.
Yeah, I mean, and even on top of that, I mean, you have James Conner, who looks good. You drafted Jalen Samuels, who looks good. I mean, even if Le'Veon Bell comes back, like you said, you have the issues, you don't trust people blocking for him. He wants to get his money. His agent said he'll miss 8-10 games. He'll take that $1 million a week hit if it means how much more money he can get next year.
$855,000 per game to be exact,
right.
But go ahead.
So my question is, if you have that issue in the locker room, maybe you're not going to get a first round for him, or you might not get the value you think, but he doesn't want to play for you. You're not going to pay him. Why is he still on your team?
Yeah. Well, listen, the Steelers could always exercise the nuclear option. Now they've reportedly said they wouldn't. Ian Rappaport of the NFL.com reported that, they're not going to consider that, but it's always an option that the Steelers could entertain. They could take the franchise tag off the table. They really, really could. So it remains to be seen, Bobby. I appreciate the call, though, man. Thank you so much. Let's go to Greg in South Carolina. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Greg.
Stephen A., how you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hey, I want to talk about Cincinnati here, sir. I'm born and raised Cincinnati Bengals fan from day one. And we're looking at a program and a team that does not respect the pedigree for what champions stand for. All right, so back in 2004, when I was downrange hooking a jab in Ramadi, Iraq, I saw this team called the New England Patriots come on deck. And you know what I did? When that chain passed Cincinnati, I got on it and I went to New England. Sir, this is about following a team that follows champions and being a part of something bigger than this settlement for mediocrity. What do you think about all that?
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. How long have you been a Cincinnati Bengals fan?
Well, I'm 33 since I was 5 years old. My dad took me in the game.
Well, I didn't ask you your history. I asked you how long. You said since you were 5?
Yes, sir.
That's 28 years. Where the hell have you been the last 15? When Marvin Lewis been the head coach of this team and can't win a damn playoff game. How you just calling now?
With Belichick.
What?
I've been in New England. I've been a New England fan for the last 15 years.
Oh, so you ain't really so you're not really a Bengals fan. You've been in New England and you transitioned.
Sir, I'm a fan of the game. And I appreciate when good football's played. I played this sport in college.
Well, I will tell you this. If you appreciate where good football is being played or whatever, good luck and root for the Cincinnati Bengals. My condolences to you. Have a nice day. New England's the place to be. You should have stuck with that team. Let's go to Joe. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Joe?
What's up, Stephen A? First off, I just want to say you're the best. But most importantly, I wanted to know what you think about Royce Freeman. All the hype is huge on Royce Freeman. I bought into it. I put him on all my fantasy.
Don't know much about him. Got to wait and see. Okay. Not going to pretend that I know I don't know. What's your next question?
Well, who are the two worst teams in the NFL? If you run a survivor pool, who would you go against every week?
Well, first of all, the Browns. That's obvious. The Browns. They're coming off an 0-16 season. The Browns that would be applicable to them. The Browns are one. It's the only team in the AFC. As I look and scour the NFC. I don't want to say Arizona. David Johnson's back. Don't want to say Tampa, not with those receivers. Don't want to say Detroit with Matt Stafford and those boys, even though Megatron is no longer there. You know what, John Nuno? You know who might be the second worst team in the NFL when all is said and done? It might be the Washington Redskins. Now, I'm not going to go that far because Alex Smith, I got respect for him, even though he's relatively pedestrian. The bottom line is that Alex Smith, along with Jordan Reed, Matt Jones, and the crew, and Doxson and those boys, they could play. But when we think about bad teams, you know what? I mean, listen, it could be the Oakland Raiders. Now that Khalil Mack is gone, you didn't have a good defense to begin with. We don't know what Carr's going to give you. Amari Cooper hasn't stepped up to the plate. Crabtree's gone. Though, who's their running back? Latavius Murray's gone. I don't know. It could be Oakland. I would say Cleveland. And then I know that there's several other candidates. I might put the Oakland Raiders in there. I don't want to say the Bills, but you could say the Bills with Peterman as your quarterback and Josh Allen not being ready. You can put the Bills up in there, but it might be the Oakland Raiders. It might be the Oakland Raiders. Wouldn't that be something? John Gruden gets 10 years, $100 million after being away from the game for a decade, after having the previous 6 years that he coached, where they only made the playoffs twice and then win a playoff game. Could you imagine? You go through all of that pomp and circumstance. You bring John Gruden back to Raider Nation. You give him a 10-year guaranteed $100 million contract with incentive that could bloat the contract to about 118 to $120 million. Okay? And then suddenly they stick up the joint. I mean, when you think about it, would Jay Gruden have a job if it wasn't for John Gruden? If his last name wasn't Gruden, would he have a job? And so you got two Grudens in there, not one. You got one Gruden getting paid $100 million. You got another Gruden than Jay. It might be a crime for him to get paid at all. I don't know, Joe. I don't know.
Can I ask you one off-topic question?
Hurry up. Go ahead.
As you see, I'm from San Antonio. I got 25 season tickets to the Spurs. Is it time to let them go? Are they never going to be in the playoffs in the next 5 years?
No. The Spurs are going to make the playoffs. You bet that.
Be fine?
They'll be all right. They ain't going to be a champion. They ain't going to win a championship. But the Spurs will make the playoffs. And I got news for you. R.C. Buford and Popovich didn't do bad. You're going to lose Kawhi Leonard. You get DeMar DeRozan in return. That's not bad. So keep your tickets. I tell you to keep your tickets. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show, by the way, which is brought to you by Discover Card. We treat you like you treat you, which is why we think annual fees are just ridiculous. We bet you do too. To see all the ways Discover is looking out for you, go to discover.com or give us a call at 1-800-DISCOVER. Need game tickets, by the way? Find your seats at Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Enter promo code ESPN at checkout and receive 10% off your order today. That's Vivid Seats. The Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, closing it out with your calls in a minute.
It's a normal day. You're rushing out the door to get to work on time when suddenly, there it is, the dreaded service light. So what is it this time? Tire pressure? Low coolant? Time for an oil change? When it comes to service lights, head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. Drive in today and make the switch to Pennzoil. Ask for Pennzoil Synthetics, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Back to the phones we go before we get on out of here for the day. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Real quick, Brandon, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yeah, hey, man, I just want to know what you think about Jimmy Garoppolo this season.
We'll see. I think that a lot of stuff that he receives is premature. Listen, bottom line is he can play. I'm not trying to rob him of that. The pedigree is nice. I certainly don't mind the time that he spends in Hollywood and what he chooses to do. That's his business. But I will tell you, all of the raving about him, let's see now that film is out on him. Let's see how good he's going to be. We shall see.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Stuart in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Stuart.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A? Man, I got a question about the Le'Veon Bell situation. So, since they're not going to give him the long-term contract, and instead of him losing the $800,000 a game, why don't he just sign the contract and do what Kawhi did? Go out there and play a game and say tweak an ankle and just sit out the rest of the season and collect his money. I mean, since they're not going to be able to fix the situation anyway, I don't know how the rules work about that, but what you think about that?
Well, you could point that out, but that's really low, man. I mean, to go out there and to get hurt on purpose or to fake an injury just to ensure that you can just get your money, that's pretty damn low. And I mean, listen, I think that his teammates betray him, but I think if he were to do something like that, he would be betraying them. So it's certainly not something that I would condone. That's just me. But I appreciate the call, man. Thank you. Brian, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Stephen A.
I'm good. Talk to me. What's up?
About LeBron versus Jordan. If LeBron ends up getting 40,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 10,000 assists, and then be the first player to win.
Stop right there. Did you call me a few weeks ago and ask me this question? Have you called me before and asked me about LeBron and MJ? Because if you have, I'm about to cuss you out. And you know why? Because I told you my position will not change. I specifically, what did I say? Did I not say that under no circumstances in my mind will LeBron ever be ahead of MJ? Tell me that you haven't heard me say that 10,000 times.
But you would say
No. Tell me that you have not heard me say that 10,000 times. Is that not true? Is it not true that I have said that numerous times? Yes or no?
I mean, but sooner or later, you got to progress.
No, I don't. Is it not true that I have said that 10,000 times? Under no circumstances is LeBron James ever going to be ahead of MJ, because what it took him years to get to, MJ already had that killer instinct when he walked into the equation. That is how I feel about it. I am not changing it. You cannot erase that. You can't erase 6 NBA Finals losses. LeBron is on the Mount Rushmore. He's one of the top 2 or 3 players in NBA history. He's one of the greatest ever, but he will never ever be ahead of MJ in my mind. And damn it, I'm hanging up because I told you I'm not changing my mind. Don't ask me again. Stacey, real quick, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, man?
I'm all right. We only got a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, look, Falcons in the Super Bowl. First team ever to win the Super Bowl in the home division. Playing the Patriots. Won't even be close. Now, I got something for all the picks. 10 points underdog this year. Take the 10. 10 will always be a winner with the underdogs. One more thing. How many teams went 0-4, Steven, preseason?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to preseason.
Well, here to my man. You got the Dallas Cowboys. You got the Falcons. You got the Seattle Seahawks. I want you to watch them and pick. I have no favorite teams in NFL, basketball, and then I pick winners, man.
You pick winners. Time, Stace. You pick winners, but the first thing you did was call up here and say the Falcons going to win.
Hey, no, the Falcons not going to win tonight. They're going to win the Super Bowl.
But you said the Falcons going to win the Super. You said the Falcons going to win the Super Bowl.
Yes.
But you pick winners, but when have they ever won?
Hey, the Falcons going to be the first team.
Oh, you stop it. You don't even believe that. You just trying to make headlines. Good job, though, Stacey, because I'm going to remember you. I'm going to remember you, Stacey. I'm going to remember what you said that. Stacey.